Hi, and welcome to the Spawdcast. My name's Carrie Hyde, and I'm your host, and I'm your pet's life coach. And I'm sitting here today with a friend of mine who used to be a client of mine, and we just found so much passion about what we do and what we just learned so much about each other. And so this is Karen Mercandati. Karen,
Hi.
welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I brought Karen on because, not just because she's a huge pet lover, but because the topic that we're going to be talking about today is something that Karen and I, it's so dear. Like, I am going to tear up. I knew I wouldn't get through this without talking about how passionate I am about the food that goes in your pet's mouth, and where it comes from and how it's made. And so when I meet people like Karen and our guest, who I'm going to introduce you to in a second, I am so amazingly proud that we have this group of people that I can sit on a couch with and I can Skype with that are speaking up and speaking out.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, a lot of times that comes through us losing a pet that gets us to the point where we have to speak up and speak out about it. And I'm sure most of our listeners have lost pets in their lives, but sometimes when we lose pets that are unnecessarily a loss, the pain that we can feel from that is so unbelievably deep. And so we're going to get through this, and I'm going to introduce to you someone who I met through Facebook, but I've followed her for so long and am so amazed at her story, and I know you're going to be amazed at her story as well. So with no further ado, I would like to have you meet Kelly Bone. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Good. How are you, Carrie? Nice to meet you, Karen.
Nice to meet you as well.
Doing well. I'm so excited to finally get you on the show. We've tried a few times, and
Yeah.
Kelly has an amazing life and a lot of things going on in her life that have made it a little difficult for both of us. And then COVID happened, and it's just been kind of tragic. But she's coming to us all the way from Florida also, so on this big screen. But Kelly heads up a Facebook page called Saving Pets One Pet at a Time. So tell us a little bit, Kelly, how did that come about? Let's talk a little bit about how you started saving pets one pet at a time.
Okay. Well, I had a dog named Duncan, and he was a little Lhasa Bichon, and he was a service dog for me. I had seizures and I had heart problem, and so he was a service dog. So he was a service dog for me for 12 out of the 13 years that I had him.
Wow.
He was an amazing little dog. As you can imagine, being a service dog, he was extremely well trained.
Yeah.
He was so well trained that he could actually jump up on the sofa, knock the phone off the hook, and he could dial the button for me to call 911 for me, so that if I was having a seizure.
Wow.
He was amazing.
Oh, Duncan. How did you how did you get him? Did he come trained, or did you seek out a seizure dog?
No, he did not come trained. I got him, and then I had a couple seizures with him. And on I think my third seizure, I was at the hospital, and I had hurt myself extremely badly. And I told the doctor, I said, oh my God, my dog's driving me crazy. They said, he's jumping on me. He's like losing his marbles. And I said, that's the last thing I need when I'm not feeling well. And they go, how often does he do this? I go, every time I have something. And they're like, okay, you need to go and get him trained.
Yeah.
And so I hired this lady who trains police dogs, and she also trains service dogs. So she trained him, and she trained me. She said he passed with flying colors, but I didn't pass because I was a loser and I wasn't doing what I needed to do. So he got trained, and we had a wonderful relationship between the two of us, and we were inseparable, obviously.
Wow.
And so what happened was, Duncan was 13. For 12 out of the 13 years that he was alive, he ate Science Diet dog food. And he was very healthy. For like 2 years, he had a bout with pancreatitis, but then he didn't have any more. We got it corrected, and he was doing great. And all of a sudden, I noticed that he wasn't wanting to eat his food, and he was pushing away from his food all the time. And so then the doctor switched him to a different Science Diet, and he didn't want to eat that Science Diet. And then it was going on for like 2 weeks. And then I'd put it down, and he'd just look at me like, Mom, really, I don't want to eat this, no. And I'm like, And I just thought Duncan was pretty spoiled. And I thought, you know what? He's just being finicky. And this is
Right.
what the vet told me is best for dogs with pancreatitis. So I have to keep him on this food. So I just said, Duncan, tough love. I'm too much of a softie. When you're hungry, you'll eat it. So
Oh.
he would go off and on, and he would
Kelly.
eat it a little bit, and then he'd keep, giving me a hard time, and then he'd go eat it. And then all of a sudden we noticed he started drooling, and then he started being extremely lethargic. And then about 10 days before he passed away, he was hiding from us. And he would go and he wouldn't want to be with me, which is really unusual.
Oh, no.
And so we thought, my husband said, he goes, I wonder if it's just he's getting older and he's just dying or what. He said, maybe this is normal. This is the way they pull away. And so, and I can understand that if it's just the normal dying process, that's no problem.
Sure.
But then all of a sudden, one day we woke up and he was vomiting like I've never seen him vomit before. And he could not, his bowels were totally loose and they were running all over the place. He was just squirting everywhere. And then he was trembling really bad. And then he was falling over on his side. He had lost his balance.
Oh my God,
And
I
so
can't
we took him to the,
imagine
yeah,
watching that.
yeah.
So,
So we took him to the vet.
I was going to say before because I don't want to miss this point, when you have an animal who can smell the chemicals in your body changing for when you have a seizure,
Yes.
right? So I
Right.
often tell my clients this: if your pets they're telling you they can smell something different in their food, I shouldn't say, I don't want to put the blame on you at all, but we often
Right.
think, oh, when you're hungry, you'll just eat it.
Right.
But we forget how, and you had a dog who had an enormous sense of smell in order to smell your
Right.
seizures. So he was telling you from the beginning,
Right.
this is a bad idea.
Something's wrong with this food.
Exactly.
Something's
Yes.
wrong. Something's wrong.
Exactly.
So I want to make the point to our listeners that please listen to your pets because they have a sense of smell that is really great. And sometimes they're also telling you that maybe they've had too much protein in their diet. They've already had too much protein for today. And so maybe it's not that there's something wrong with the food, but maybe it's just I need to back off of eating a little bit, and we
Right.
need to respect that with our pets. Wouldn't you agree, Kelly? Right, Karen?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I think too, I innately trusted my vet and respected my vet because they have a lot of training and things like that. And we'll get into this a little bit later about, what I would do differently.
Right.
But, I think, so what happened was then I took my dog to the vet and I said, gosh, this is what's going on and stuff. And she could tell he was in a pretty bad situation. And she said, okay. She goes, well, let me run some tests on him and stuff like that. And then she said, let me do some work and stuff like that. So she said, in the meantime, I'm going to put these fluids in him that's going to give him a lot of additional enzymes and all these other things that should make things so much better. She goes, so and this was a Friday, I think. She goes, within 24 hours, he's going to be doing remarkably better. And she goes, I think Duncan's going to bounce back. And I'm like, well, he's my seizure dog, and so I really need him to bounce back. So we need to make sure we take care of this, So she said, yep, he'll be doing a lot better. Well, by the next day, he had lost 50% of his body weight.
Oh my gosh.
He woke up and we woke up and my husband was like, what in the hell? What in the
No,
heck
you're
happened
fine.
to him?
You can say what the hell.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're looking at him and he had gone from 14 pounds to like 6 pounds.
And how long?
A day.
Oh my goodness.
In 24 hours.
Oh my God.
And we're like, oh my gosh. And then he was so lethargic, he couldn't even lift himself up. So we had to carry him. So we were carrying him. So I called the vet and she said, come back in. So we go back in. And she said, she discussed the blood work with us and stuff like that. And she said, I think at this point we need to just give him another shot of the enzymes and stuff. And she goes, and that should correct it. And she goes, and I'm sure by Monday, because the vet office was closed on Sunday.
Did they know that it was kidney failure at that point? Had they diagnosed it yet?
They knew it was. She said that she knew there was something wrong with the kidneys.
Okay.
I can't talk specifics about the
Sure.
what happened with work and stuff because of the lawsuit.
We understand.
Yeah, but they knew certain things.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay.
So-
We know.
yeah.
Okay.
So then she said, I'm going to give you this. And she goes, I think this should correct it. And she goes, if not, we'll see you on Monday. So we came back home. Well, then that was like 11 o'clock in the morning. By 3 o'clock, he was in a coma.
Oh my goodness.
And he was not doing well at all. And I told my husband, I said, you know what? He's not going to make it till Monday. I said, he is suffering. I said, look at him. I said, he is just, oh my God. And so I said, my husband wanted to wait till Monday. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this to him. I said, he's been so loyal to me. I need to be loyal to him and do the right thing. And so we took him into the vet, and I told her to put him to sleep. And the vet was bawling her eyes out. I was bawling my eyes out. The whole staff was in there bawling their eyes out. And so we let him go.
That is the hardest decision as pet owners.
Oh.
To understand like that kind of love. Right?
Yeah.
It's the toughest love that you can ever give. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people who can't get to that point, and they hold on and they hold on. But what you said right there was so amazing, is he's been so loyal to you that you needed to give back that and be loyal to him.
Yeah.
That's
So we
amazing, Kelly.
decided to do that. And then can I keep talking and explain what happened then from there?
Keep going.
Okay. So then, as you know, Carrie, that's how I met you. I laid in bed and I cried for 4 days, and my husband was worried about me because if I don't get good sleep and if I'm not doing well health-wise, things cannot work out so well for me. And so I said, you know what? I'm just worried that people are gonna lose their pets over this and stuff like that. I said, I don't know what this is. And I said, but so I kept couldn't figure out what to do to help people. Well, then I kept getting all these things popping up saying that people's dogs were sick with Science Diet. Well, then all of a sudden on January 31st, so Duncan died on January 11th. On January 31st, I get a email saying that there was Science Diet had a recall on their food. So 2.5 weeks after Duncan passed away.
You get an alert that there's a recall.
Right.
Okay.
So I go on the Science Diet website. I go on the Science Diet Facebook page and website, and I look, and there's literally thousands of people who have posted out there that their dogs were all sick with the exact same symptoms Duncan had.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, son of a gun. So anyways, people are writing in saying, Hills, please call me back, blah, 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 blah. And of course, Hills is overwhelmed, so they're not calling people back. So I posted a picture on Hills' Facebook page, and I said, this is Duncan. He's a service dog for seizures. It cost me $13,000 to train him. And by the way, this is a huge loss for me. I said, I'm not going to bother to call you. I suggest you call me immediately.
Good for you.
So I'll be darned in 10 minutes if I don't get a phone call.
Wow.
Yeah. So I get a phone call, and the person talked to me, and they said, tell us the symptoms. So I told them, and they said, yes. They said, we realized that we put too much vitamin D in the dog food. There was over a 3,000% too much vitamin D put into the dog.
They already knew what was causing
well,
it.
They didn't specifically say the percentage, but they said that, they realized that there was too much vitamin D and that they were sorry. And they said, we're really sorry about this. They said, but, we'd like to offer you our condolences. So we'd like to offer you some free coupons for some pet food. So they offered me $10 in coupons for pet food.
Okay, I'm trying not to like, that is horrible. I don't want to laugh, but they offered you coupons?
$10 for a dog I didn't have.
So you could buy more of the food that killed your dog.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So I
That's
told them,
who's the CEO who came up with that plan? I'm sorry. Like, who is the CEO who said, it's okay, guys, I got this. We'll just send out coupons.
Well, it's about the business, not your pets, truthfully. It's about making money.
Sorry. Just got a little angry there.
Right.
I just got.
So then I told them to go F themselves. And I was screaming at them. And then
as would I.
All of a sudden I get a messenger on Facebook from an attorney who says, I saw your post on Facebook about the Hills Pet thing, and they said, we'd like to represent you. Would you like to file a class action suit? exactly at the same time I'm talking to Hills. I'm like, are you
Wow.
freaking kidding me?
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Good for that attorney.
Yeah. So did you sign up with that attorney?
Yeah, so I signed up for the attorney, and we ended up filing the lawsuit. And then in the meantime, after that, as you probably are aware, Carrie, Hills, over a period of several months, had multiple more recalls for the same thing. They kept releasing additional lots of food that were tainted and stuff like that.
Correct.
And then they also, they eventually ended up telling pet owners that, you know what, you submit your medical documentation to us, and you submit all of your files and things like that, and then send in your food, and then we may reimburse you for a small portion of your medical bills.
So
they did not offer that.
So send the food to them to have it tested, not send the food to a
Right.
third party of your choice to test it.
Right.
Okay.
And by
Just
the way,
checking.
I think they were trying to make sure that don't send it to the lawyer.
Right.
Any lawyer.
Give us the food.
Right.
Quick, get it off the shelves. Give it to us.
Well, and they didn't test it in the first place, which is the first problem. And when you end up with, 3.5 million cans of dog food that had, up to 70 times the amount of vitamin D that's required,
Yeah.
that's an issue if you're already supposed to be testing your food.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they say
Yeah.
that they test
Yeah.
every batch.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right.
So after I got done speaking with them, I started researching on the internet people that might know about this, and I came across Molly Morissette, who runs the Poison Pets page. And I sent her a note, and she called me immediately, and we started talking, and she said, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the word out about this. Well, in the meantime, I had already posted out on my Facebook page warning people and saying, this just happened to me. You know, Duncan was sick. I didn't know what it was. 2 weeks later, the recall came out. I'm just warning people, if you're feeding your dog science diet, stop, blah, 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 blah. So I went out and I put it on my Facebook page, and then I put it on like some of the for sale pages, Facebook groups that I belong to and things like that,
Right.
thinking, you know what, it's going to get to a couple thousand people. Well, the next morning I woke up and I had 12,000 messages in my box.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Who all had
12,000
sick pets.
12,000 people with sick pets. 12,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Wow.
woke up and I'm looking and I told my husband, I'm like, oh my Lord. So I started typing back responses to everybody, and I didn't know anything about pet food at the time.
Right.
So I'm just responding back. Well, then nice people kind of like you, Carrie, who are more knowledgeable and stuff, they were reaching out to me and saying, you know what, we can see from your Facebook page, your post that you're getting overwhelmed. They said, how can we help you?
Yeah.
So they started giving me information. And then I had some fairly famous pet advocates reach out to me too, saying, oh, dear Lord, you poor girl.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my gosh, 12,000 in one day.
Wow.
So, and then as the days went, it kept going and going. Well, my Facebook post within like 3 weeks had gone to 1 million people.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
And I could
million
not
people.
keep up with the number. Yeah.
Right.
I couldn't keep up with the number of people that were doing it. In fact, I kept saying, I think I need a media consultant. I can't keep up with all of this. And so I did interviews on a few TV stations and things like that. So then my husband was worried about my health, and he said, you know, honey, we can't keep doing this. You can't, you're not sleeping. All you do is respond to pet stuff.
Yeah.
You need to do something. I'm like, but I can't let all these pets die.
Right.
So I said, well, I'll start a Facebook group, and maybe if I start the Facebook group, I can get people to join that, and then maybe I can get a few people to help me, and we'll try that. So that's why I started the Savings Pet One Pet at a Time page.
And who?
And as you know, it's done quite well.
Yeah. 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 I direct people to it all the time. So as most of the listeners know, I run a boarding facility for dogs and cats. And when this recall was going on, Kelly, you probably don't know this. I was just telling Karen this. As the recall was going on, and still we were finding out more and more SKUs, right? So it started off with one SKU, and oh wait, it's another SKU, it's another SKU, it's another SKU. So at my boarding facility, I was still having people coming in with their pets to board with me, dropping off their Hills science diet to me and wanting me to feed their dogs this food. Boy, did that put me in a situation, because I had to refuse to do it. And what was sad is, as I'm refusing to tell, I can't feed this to your dog because there's a recall on it. I'm being told by those same clients that their vet said, it's fine, it's not that SKU. But the next day it would be that SKU. And the next day it was the next SKU. And so I had to start telling our clients, your pet will be with me for a week, and I don't know if he'll be on the SKU tomorrow, so I can't feed it to him. And I struggled because I still had people telling me, and so I would direct them. I'm like, here, go to this Facebook page called Saving Pets One Pet at a Time. You'll understand why I can't feed this to your dog. But vets were still saying it was okay and taking that risk. Taking that risk. I wanted vets to go, we're going to pull it all off until this gets figured out. Out. But they refuse to do it. And so I just, it was really, really a hard time. But I was so thankful about your site because I could send people and I could do stuff and I could say, listen, I'm not the only one. And which is sad because you kind of wish you were the only one that lost because there's so many losses.
Right. Well, let me tell you another story that I think is really telling. I had a person reach out to me maybe 4 weeks after this all occurred, and it was a vet. And she said, I'm not going to let you publish this. And she goes, because I don't want my name being said. She goes, but she said, I want to let you know that back in August of 2019, so August of 2018, so 4 months before the recall, her own pet had gotten extremely sick.
Oh, wow.
And so she had run some tests, and she had realized that there was some problems there. And so she alerted Hills to let them know that there was a problem. And they told her, no, indeed, there was not a problem and that she shouldn't be saying anything. And she said, no. And she said, so then she said more people were bringing their dogs in, presenting themselves with the same problem.
Right.
So she went back again to Hills and said, Hills, you need to come out with something. There is seriously something wrong here.
Right.
And they denied it. And then they sent her a threatening letter telling her that because she sold Hills that she's not supposed to speak out.
Oh my gosh.
On situations like this.
Wow.
So it just shows how corrupt the pet food industry is. And it's not just Hills.
It's
not. Mars Pet. It's Mars.
Correct.
It's, Purina, you name it. They're all.
The big three.
That's exactly the problem. And when I talk to people about food for their pets, I always mention that the more ingredients that are thrown in, that are synthetic, that are processed, that's just more chances we have for a problem, right? So if you're using 12 different supplements, most of the supplements in pet food are coming from China, and so the research and the process that they go through to be tested is not the same. And so if you're throwing in, like we saw with this situation there was a double dose of vitamin D. But if I've got 12 different ingredients, then I've got 12 chances of having something being wrong, which is why I direct people all the time to feeding whole fresh foods. Because if I eat too much, broccoli one day or something, it's probably not going to cause me the same harm as having too much vitamin D or too much calcium or too much of the synthetic vitamins and minerals. Because the body knows what to do with food. It doesn't know what to do with something that's synthetic. And so it struggles a little bit.
Well, and synthetic vitamins and minerals are never equivalent to real vitamins and minerals from fresh food.
Correct.
So that's a whole nother.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
I keep telling people, if you have an ingredient list and it's 40 ingredients long and you can't figure out what any of them are, it's not good.
It's not good.
100%.
It's not good, and it opens up the plate for more error. And that's the same reason I don't like when there's 12 different people's hands in the making of the food, because then you have the distributor, you have the manufacturer, you have the people who are you're buying the food from. You have all of these different errors. So I really like food that are small companies that have control over everything that's going on. It's not being made in a manufacturing plant with 40 billion other different kinds of foods,
And when they're transparent and will answer any question that you ask, that's how you know. When they will not answer your questions or they send you to another direction.
Yeah. I get a lot of that when I call companies to find out what is natural flavoring. And they say, well, it's a proprietary blend.
Meaning,
and they won't give you any more information. Just it's a proprietary blend. It's our secret sauce. No, there's no secret sauce to it. You don't want me to know.
Yeah.
So,
and as you know, Carrie, we Carrie, you know, we have a list on our page of the foods that we recommend in our group.
Yes.
And it's a very
that's
small
awesome.
number of groups. And there's a list of raw foods, there's a list of fresh foods. And then unfortunately, we do list 2 kibbles that we don't really endorse, but we know some people are never going to go away from kibble.
Correct.
But it's the 2 safest kibbles there are.
Yeah.
But, you know, people often, I hate to say that, but they try to almost like pick a fight about, well, why isn't this on there? Why isn't
Right.
this pet food on there? Why isn't this pet food on here?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like Karen said, if the company's not transparent, if, you know, if they don't, if it's made in China or Vietnam or things like that, those are all suspect things.
Yeah.
If you call them and they're not direct about your answers and things like
Absolutely.
that, you know, when it seems a little funny to you, you better run. You know,
Yep.
and if it doesn't feel good in your gut,
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah. It's hard though when we have, you know, our veterinarians who, I mean, who in their right mind would think that a veterinarian doesn't know about nutrition? But that's the reality. Veterinarians don't spend a whole lot of their time studying actual nutrition. A lot of the nutrition that they're taught is taught in vet school, which is a small amount, and they're taught by companies that are large dog food manufacturing companies. And that's just wrong. I don't have another word for it other than
and funded by those companies.
Correct.
So
But no one
Yeah.
walks into their vet hospital, and I don't think there's any vets out there that are like, I don't care if your pet dies. I'm going to sell what I'm going to sell. They believe they're selling you
Yes.
something nutritious for your animal. That is where the problem is. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, your vet wasn't like, oh, this is probably going to make Duncan sick, but
No.
I can make a lot of money off of it.
No.
That's not what's happening. But there is a breakdown, right, in what vets know and what they should know. And I think vets need
Right.
to, I really think, I would love to have a vet go, I don't know anything about nutrition. Just say it. It's okay.
Right.
But if my dog breaks my leg, you're who I want to go to.
Yes.
But I wish they would come out and say, I really don't know anything about nutrition. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things people always ask me, you know, well, what, you know, how come my vet didn't tell me this? How come my vet says? I'm like, you know what? Here's the things I want you to go ask your vet. I want you to ask your vet, how much training have you had in nutrition? You know,
Yeah. Where
And-
did that training come
and,
from?
You know, right. Where did the training come from? What school did you go to? And then I want you to go and look up that university, and I want to look up their vet school, and I want to look and see who the vet school is funded by, because
Exactly.
the vet school is funded by Phil's Pet Nutrition and
Mars.
Mars, and you know the big 3.
Right. Right.
So, so of course it's a self-serving prophecy, because they provide the instructors who teach the pet training, and then or the pet nutrition, and then what foods do they push, and then also the vets get a commission for every can and bag they sell.
Yep. Yep.
And so,
Absolutely.
of course, it's you know very self-serving that they're going to push the hills.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that I think vets are bad, because I think
Right.
vets serve a very valuable purpose.
Absolutely.
However, I do think that as pet owners, we need to be well educated, and we need to be the advocate for our pets in not only pet nutrition, but also pet medications, pet vaccinations, and everything. Because just like the human medical industry, it's overcome by pharmaceutical companies, and they put things into our bodies all the time that sure it solves the short-term problem, but it creates a long-term problem.
Right.
And if you look at everything that we have out there in the human industry that's carcinogenic, that we eat all the time, that's in our processed foods, it's the same thing in pet foods.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
we as humans, we can do the internet, we can do some researching on our own. We're bright people. Our pets don't have that advantage. Our pets are smarter than us. Trust me, I think they're smarter than us.
Absolutely.
But we need to be their advocate.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I would have watched the video, Pet Fooled by Kit Harington,
Yep.
Yes.
Cole Harrington,
Yep.
before Duncan died, Duncan wouldn't be dead,
Yeah.
because I
Right.
would have pulled him off all that stuff, and I would have researched everything. But I trusted my vet implicitly, and I believed all the marketing hype that Hill said about prescription diets, and
Yeah.
Duncan paid a dear price for it, and so did I.
Yeah, so did your
Yes.
family, so did everybody. Just to point out to our listeners, she's talking about a video called Pet Fooled. It's a documentary, and it talks about how the pet food industry makes food. And it takes you through the extrusion process and all of the stuff that we talk about as far as making sure that our pets food is healthy. It's an amazing documentary. I think you should watch it, listen to it, whatever you have to do. It will help you in your move towards whole fresh foods, which is really what we're just advocating for you to do. We have to be really careful, though, when we do advocate fresh whole foods, right? Because sometimes people think, oh, fine, then all I have to do is give him chicken and some rice and my dog's good to go, right? That's not what we're advocating at all. So please work with a nutritionist, work with somebody who, anybody. I mean, even if you have to do your own research to try to figure out what a balanced diet is, because that is really what we want, is a whole, fresh, balanced food. And you have to be really careful, because just because it's a raw diet doesn't mean that it's a balanced diet. So.
And you need species appropriate diet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we need to move towards that.
And there's some amazing Facebook groups out there, as you know, Carrie, that are great at raw food and homemade diets and things like that.
Yes.
And, Dr. Judy Morgan and people like that who can help. So there's a lot of resources out there, but you have to do your own research. And people a lot of times will send me a note and they want me to give them the answer. And I'll read them and I'll say, well, here's this, and I'll say, this is what I would do, but I need you to do your research.
Absolutely.
But people a lot of times want the easy answer.
Yeah.
But the easy answer is to keep feeding Hills or Purina or Royal Canin or one of those pieces of crap. The right answer and the most healthy answer is to do your research and go on the road to learning and do something different.
And research and ask questions. I think if people get in that habit of doing the research themselves, because every pet's a little bit different, research and don't be afraid to ask questions, especially of our vet. Because we trust vets, absolutely, but I think it's good to question, because we've learned that the nutrition part that they go through in vet school is not what we would really like to see, as evidenced by Duncan and other dogs and the thousands of people that reached out to you that have similar problems.
Right.
And I don't feel like we can blame vets, but I would love for them to be able to do more research. And if they don't, we will.
Yeah.
Ask the questions.
I'm just so happy that you're still fighting this, because like I've said before, this isn't the first time that we've had recalls. This has happened many, many times. In 2008, we had one of the largest recall of manufactured pet food in the country, and thousands of pets died then too. And here we are, all these years later, and we're still having. Now, let me just kind of back up a little bit. Recalls can happen for a lot of reasons. We can have recalls that there's not really anything wrong with it. I know a company who just had a recall because the machine they were using that made the patties were making them wrong.
Yeah.
So the patties weren't unhealthy for pets, but the patties were not right, and they looked awkward and off. And so recalls can happen all the time. So when you're looking for a pet food, just because it's had a recall, you need to investigate why that recall happened. Not just, oh my God, that pet food was recalled, it must be bad. Pet food companies have recalls all the time. We have recalls in human food all the time. We have lettuce recalled, and I don't not eat lettuce now. So we have to do our research, and we have to know why they're being recalled and what steps the companies are doing in order to ensure that those recalls are taken care of and changes are being put in place, and that we're talking about it, right? That's super important. I'm just going to shift us a tiny little bit, because this is also a subject that's a little bit dearer to my heart, because my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's. And something I want our listeners to know about Kelly is she's not just fighting for the rights of animals to eat healthy food and for pet parents to know more about healthy food. She's also a fighter for the Alzheimer's organizations, because Kelly was diagnosed, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about it, but Kelly was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And through that, she is still fighting to help make sure that pets don't die. So this isn't just a fighter, she's a warrior. And I'm so blessed to know you and to be a part of it, but I think it's important that we talk a little bit about Alzheimer's so people can help in those organizations as well. So tell us a little bit about when you got diagnosed and how you're doing with that.
Sure. Well, I'm 58 now, and my mother died from early onset Alzheimer's, and my uncle had dementia, and my several of them, I guess I shouldn't go through them all, but I had several family members who had dementia and Alzheimer's. And so I had reason to believe that, I went and got genetic testing done. And my genetic testing came back and said that I had 2 APOE4 genes, which are the Alzheimer's genes. And if you have one, you have a 30% chance of the disease. And if you have 2, you have about a 70% chance.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. And so I told my husband, I said, maybe I should go and get tested. He goes, honey, you're doing really well. Don't worry about it. So then I met with my primary doctor, and he gave me a memory test, and I didn't do very well on it. And he said, he goes, you live an hour away from an Alzheimer's Institute in Tampa, Florida. He goes, it would be worthwhile for you to go for an appointment there. And if it's nothing, if it's just normal aging, then that's fine. He goes, if it's not, then you need to find out. So I did, and I didn't do well on the initial testing. So then they put me through the 6-hour testing, and then I had to go for additional CAT scans and things like that. And then they came back and said that I had early onset Alzheimer's at 57 years old.
Wow.
And so, I'm as you can probably tell, I'm a very energetic and pragmatic person. And I just told the doctor, I said, okay. I said, well, that's fine. And she's like, no, I guess you're not grasping, because I wasn't crying or anything. And she's like, I don't think you're grasping. She goes, I don't think you're grasping the situation. I said, no, I'm grasping it. I said, I understand. I said, I was the caregiver for my mom for, 9 years. I get it. I know what's going on, and I know what I can expect. I said, so I'm going to go and schedule the biggest damn vacation you've ever seen in the world. It's going to be, it's going to be my bucket list. And I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then in 90 days, I came back and I met with her, and I had scheduled my trip, and I had an Alzheimer's business plan that I had developed that was my short-term goals, my long-term goals, my 30, 60, 90-day things that I had to accomplish, my 2-year plan and my 5-year plan.
I love that.
And
That's amazing.
I'm done with my 5-year plan within a year and a half.
That's awesome. And you're so positive, Kelly.
So positive.
You have such a positive attitude.
Do you think that losing Duncan the way that you lost Duncan at all has helped you be a little bit more cautious as far as what you eat and what you put in your body that may help you think, a little bit with the struggles that you'll go through with Alzheimer's?
Yeah, well, let me tell you this. So here's what happened. So Duncan, I found out I had Alzheimer's on December 22nd, 2018.
Okay.
Duncan got sick and died on January 11th, 2019, so 2 weeks later.
Oh my goodness.
January 30th, I found out I had uterine cancer, and January 31st was the Hills recall.
Wow.
And then March 5th, I had a hysterectomy to have my uterus removed, and hope and a cure. Well, it fixed the cancer for now, at least. And so as a result of that, I think between Duncan passing away and then also meeting with the oncologist, the oncologist really encouraged me to go organic and to remove all the toxic stuff that you put in your body and on your body and within the house and things like that. So, I no longer burn candles. I no longer use a lot of the cleaning products that I used to use.
Right.
I'm not going to say that I eat totally organic, because that's pretty impossible to do.
It's hard.
And you know what? If I want to have ice cream and I know it's not good for me, I am going to eat that damn ice cream because I like it.
As you should.
Right. Right.
Right. But, and so my neurologist and my cardiologist, because I also have a heart problem, which is what causes the seizures, they said, they talk to me all the time, and they say I'm doing better than anybody they've ever seen, given all my medical problems.
Right.
And they said, when I tell them, I like, look, I like ice cream. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything bad. I go, but I eat ice cream nonstop. And they're like, you know what, Kelly, eat the ice cream if that's what makes you happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think all of those things have helped. I think Duncan has given me, I don't want to say something to live for, because I have a wonderful life.
Right.
But he's given me something to fight for.
Yeah.
And, people ask me all the time, Kelly, are you going to get another pet? In fact, I've had some rescues and some breeders and stuff offer to give me a free pet because they think what I'm doing is so nice and they'd like to have me have another pet. But I keep telling them, I said, I'm not trying to be rude. I go, but I probably am going to the pet will outlive me.
Yeah.
And I don't want my husband to have to take care of me and a pet as well. And plus, this is our time for my husband and I to go travel and do all these other things. Yeah. And it's hard to do, even though you have a service dog, it's still hard to do with a service dog. When you've got a pet, makes it difficult to travel and all these other things.
Yes,
and so I keep teasing and I say, my husband's my service dog now. He goes everywhere with me. And he makes sure I'm okay and things like that. And
what a great
I'm
guy.
doing okay. I have to be careful because of my seizures and stuff like that, but I have a pacemaker, an experimental pacemaker that keeps me going, and keeps me from fainting and having the seizures and stuff. And then, as you know, Carrie, sometimes I have good days and bad days with my Alzheimer's.
Today's a good day.
More good days than bad days. And I'm at the point where, with my savings pet page, before I was going to try to grow it really big and maybe do all these other things with it and everything like that and get media consultants and stuff. But I realized I need to have a balance in my life because I only have so many more years left. And Duncan would want me to fight for him, but he wouldn't want me to give up my whole life for that. And so I need to do that. And so I'm at the stage now where I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do with the savings pet page as things progress and I can't keep it going. But I have some wonderful moderators.
I was just going to say, you brought in some moderators. I know, isn't Amy Ward? I think.
Yeah, I've got
Amy Ward is one of your, Yeah,
Sonia Penny, Andrea Phillips, Rachel Llewellyn, Claire Buckland, and then Dr. Jody Grunstein.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah. So they're helping, and so the page will keep going, and it's just
That's fantastic.
Your story is just so amazing, and it is. I'm hopeful that you are keeping that balance because your health is more important, but you are definitely making a difference, Kelly. I mean, you are definitely, even if it's on the smaller scale than what you think you could do, the difference is huge. I mean.
Oh, thank you.
It really is.
It's amazing.
And it's such an amazing story to see. And go ahead.
I do have one other moderator, and I forgot about her. So if you don't mind if I mention her.
Yeah, go ahead.
Her name is Yolanda Cross, and she's not really that knowledgeable about pet stuff.
Right.
But she's one of my best friends, and she helped me start the group. And so she stays on and she does the administrative stuff. So I don't mean to discount her, but she's not one who pings in and gives advice and stuff.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure I called her out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. Sometimes that's the hardest work. I have to have people doing that, like Brandon, who's standing here. Thank God is keeping me, like, I don't know how to do all this. I just know about dogs.
Right.
So, yeah, we have to have the back support is sometimes the most important part. So that's awesome. Her name's Yolanda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way to go, Yolanda.
Cross.
Thank you, Yolanda, for helping keep this page going because it's a big thing. So, I wanted people to know that story about you because I think it's important for us, just as humans, whether we're reaching out to pets or reaching out into our family. I think it's important for us to know that no matter what's going on in our life, if we can have something to fight for, it brings so much more into our life. And so, not giving up and continuing on is so important. But I do want to ask you, what do you think Hills could have done both before the recall better and what they can do after the recall to make it better for our pets?
Okay. Well, for example, several of us have reason to believe that right now that Hills is going through currently what we call a silent withdrawal of food. If you go out and you look at several pet stores, and if you go and look at vet shelves, and if you look at their Facebook page, there's a lot of people out there who are saying that the pet food is not available, particularly cat food.
Okay.
But there's also several others. I also know somebody who works for Hills in the corporate office who has notified me privately that they are going through a silent withdrawal, but they don't want to come out publicly and say it because they don't want to have a recall and have all the bad publicity. So I think that's unfortunate because I think they're doing the public a disservice. I think they're putting, obviously, financial gain over pet health. I think, if they would be transparent and say, look, we're pulling it because we want to protect the safety of your pets. Yeah. And you know what, we recommend that you go to the vets. And if, in fact, it meets this criteria, we would help compensate you for the vet bills and things like that. I think if a company was forthcoming like that and put their money where the mouth is and said, you know what, we want to make sure, yes, we want to make a healthy profit on our pet food, but we also want to make sure your pets are safe. Right. And so we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to be transparent about the problem that we have found with our pet food. And if they would come forward and then say, you know what, if there is a problem, we're going to help you. We might not pay your entire vet bill, but we're going to help you in this way. I think it would go a long way. And I think a lot more people would feel comfortable with going with that pet food. Having said that, however, I still would not say that Hills is healthy pet food to feed no matter what, because if you look at the ingredients, it's a piece of trash. But if a pet manufacturer did that, I think that it would go a long way for them and stuff. But to do this clandestine way of going about it and letting thousands of pets pass away.
Yep.
And
Right.
you know, the thing I heard from someone, the person that works for Hills, was when they were having the meetings about the recall back in when Duncan passed away, one of the VPs supposedly responded and said, "Oh, you know what? No, we're not going to come out publicly. Let's just see how many dogs die, because it'll cost us less
Makes me so
money and
uncomfortable.
I know.
less money in lawsuits than it will in the lost market share."
Wow.
Well, you know what? Thank you, because Duncan died, and so did thousands of other pets, and that's just disgusting.
Right, right. No, it's tragic to think, but I do wonder, like, if Hills does a silent withdrawal, they'll just open up under a different name, do you think? Or
Yeah.
exactly. So we'll just open up
Yeah.
under a different name because they've had too many recalls probably to come back from these as what we're seeing.
Well, and they're still not doing the right thing. Like you said, Kelly, doing the right thing goes a long way, and they probably could have survived it if they did the right thing.
Sure.
Back, we're almost 2 years past your lawsuit, and they haven't done the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Right. You know, and you guys know, Susan Thixton and Karen
Correct.
Becker and these people and stuff like
Yes.
that. I mean,
Yes.
they're very, very big pet advocates. You know, Susan Thixton goes to all the AFCO meetings and all these other things and everything. And I have to tell you, there's something wrong when one day some people invited me, I'm not going to say who, they invited me to go to some of these meetings and to also speak at some pet conferences. So I, stupid me, I said, okay, I'll go, just like you asked me, Sherry, I'm like, I'll go. So then I get an email and they said, "Are you bringing a bodyguard?" I said, "What?" And they go, "Are you bringing a bodyguard?" I go, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, for people like you who are so outspoken," they said, "we often get accosted by people and have people threaten us, so you need to have a bodyguard."
oh my goodness.
Wow.
What?
Money makes people do things that they shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when people speak up and they come after the threat of someone losing their money,
Absolutely.
because it's all money driven, we definitely can see a problem. So, Kelly, we're not going to keep you too long, so I can't thank you enough for talking to us about the problems, talking about, some solutions that we can do as pet parents and what we need to do and how we need to be our own pets advocates. Before we go, though, if you could please just let us know about the Alzheimer's organization that you're involved with, and if there's a place that people can donate to help with Alzheimer's, or if there's any pet organizations you want people to give money to or something. I would really like to do that for you and for the pets and Alzheimer's organizations.
Okay. First of all, I have a blog also for my Alzheimer's, and it's called Living My Best Life with Alzheimer's, Early Onset Alzheimer's, Not Going Down Without a Fight. So if
Awesome.
people want to find me on that, they could probably just research me under Kelly Bone Alzheimer's, and I'm sure it'll pop up. Interestingly enough, with social media, because social media is so big, I've had like 26,000 hits on my page in like 4 months, so it's
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
So obviously there's people who are interested in Alzheimer's. I would recommend that if first of all, if there's people who have concerns about whether or not their loved ones or themselves have dementia or Alzheimer's, they should go to alzheimers.org, and that's the Alzheimer's Association website.
Okay.
And it's very good. They offer very good advice and help you determine if you possibly could potentially have a problem. And they also offer information for caregivers and then also for support groups. I also help run a support group. And so they could do that. And then also I would recommend that they donate to that as well, because
Awesome.
it's very important that we get donations, because Alzheimer's is the only disease in the top 10 diseases out there that are that cause the highest rates of death. It's the only one with no potential cure.
Wow.
And it's expected to
Scary.
grow to 3.1 trillion people by 2050. It's supposed to triple.
Wow.
And I'm sure it's because of all the carcinogens and stuff that we're eating and things like that, and
Correct.
the lifestyles that people are leading.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And then what about any?
And as far as the dogs, I guess I really don't know, because I don't really donate to pet things. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
I guess I would say Humane Society or something like that,
Yeah.
or maybe Susan Thixton's organization.
Yes.
The
I
Truth About
agree.
Pet Food.
I was just going to say, if you couldn't come up with one, I was going to say Susan Thixton has an organization that you can, and she's the one that is helping us understand what is in pet food. And she's the one that's out there fighting for organizations to change what they're putting on our labels. She's the one that's trying to get it changed from feed grade to food grade and human grade, and us to all understand what the differences are. So if you're going to donate to an organization, I think donating to Susan Thixton's organization would be amazing.
And it's the Truth About Pet Food,
Truth
correct?
About Pet Food.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's Truth About Pet Food.
Carrie, before we go, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
People ask me, what in hindsight 2020, what would I do if I were to get a new pet? If I were to get a new pet, I would not feed them any commercially available food that's out in the grocery store for sure.
Right.
Probably not on Chewy. I would definitely go to a holistic pet food store, local store, and I would get like Answers Pet Food, All Provide, Raised Right, Stella and Chewy's or something like that.
Yep.
I would not spay or neuter my pet initially, and I would do a lot of research on that. I know there's difference of opinions on that, but I think spaying and neutering when they're real young is dangerous.
Yes.
I would definitely research vaccinations before I start allowing my vet to start doing a bunch of vaccinations when they're puppies.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if people are aware that they give the same dosage of vaccination to a small dog as they do to a huge dog.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's true.
And often the vaccinations are given way too soon and they're not required. And if you did titer testing, it would tell you what you would need to do.
Correct.
So you need to look into titer testing and go to Dr. John Robb's website or come to my site and we'll help you with that.
Yep.
The other thing I would do is, and I was guilty of this, I would go in and if Duncan had something wrong and if they wanted to prescribe metronidazole, I can't remember.
Metronidazole.
Yeah, that. or maybe Apoquel or Cytopoint or whatever.
Yep.
Or, I did whatever they told me. Well, you know what? All of those things are bad for them, and they cause short-term relief, and they cause long-term problems.
Yep.
And the long-term problems are cancers and seizures and all these other
Absolutely.
things. And on my Facebook page, probably the most frequent thing we see are dogs having seizures.
Yep.
Why is that?
Flea and tick
and then the other-
medications.
Vaccines.
Flea and tick medications. Duncan was on Heartworm, Frontline. He was on HeartGuard. You name it, I gave it to him because that's what they told me to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I mean, my husband cracks up because I tell Duncan every day. I walk around the house talking to him. I'm like, I'm sorry, Duncan. I know I killed you, Duncan. I said, everything I did was bad because I was listening to the vet. And I know he knows that I didn't mean to do that, I was trying to do. There was no money I wouldn't have spent on Duncan.
Kelly, Duncan is going to save so many lives.
Yes.
So while Duncan lost his life, he's on the forefront of something that we need, and he's saving lives, and he's doing it through your voice, and it's really amazing.
His legacy is making a big impact.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And that's an awesome thing to be a part of. So thank you. And thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for being here. And thank you for everything you do, not just for dogs, but that you're doing for people who have Alzheimer's. You're an amazing person, Kelly. And I can't wait.
You're amazing, Kelly. It's a
I can't
pleasure
wait
to
to
meet
watch
you.
this grow. So I want to thank our listeners. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm glad that cognitively I was okay here today.
You are
You're
absolutely
fantastic.
on fire. You did fantastic. So I just want to let our listeners know how much we appreciate you listening to us. Subscribing to our channels are very important in order for us to continue to bring on guests like Kelly Bone so that she can talk to you. So subscribing and sharing is very important for us. So we thank you for doing that and continuing to do that. We also want to make sure that you know that what goes in your pet's mouth and in your pet's body is absolutely important. I am here always for you as your pet's life coach, and continue to be, as I have for the last 20 years of owning the spa. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Karen, for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
How many dogs do you have? Quick, tell them.
5.
Not really. She's not allowed to have 5. She has.
Oh, yes. In Tustin, I'm only allowed to have 4.
She has 4.
4 dogs.
4.
One's a foster.
Kelly is a huge rescuer, and so sometimes she has to foster dogs, but she is such a huge animal lover. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
again, Kelly. take care, and we'll keep in contact on Facebook. And thank you again, everyone, for listening. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. It was a pleasure.